Charles, we've got a $0 baby on our hands. How are you today?
Big lioness $0 baby. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Made it back to the residential library,
Oh, yeah,
and
looking good. And nice shirt, Charles. Very Starsky and
yeah.
Hutch.
Well, there's this store, and I'm not promoting it because I have an investment in it or anything, called Rip Curl, which I think is all over the place. But there's one out on Gili T, which is near Bali, and they really these shirt. I would never have bought a shirt like this until somebody explained that in this climate they're very comfortable. They're more comfortable than a cotton shirt. So and they're right. Very comfortable, easy to wear, and out of character.
It
So
looks good and it's appropriate. We've got a lot of ripping and curling to do. Speaking of ripping, people have noticed that I've been ripping into some notable figures. Today, we're going to talk a bit about Senator Thom. I don't know why he spells it that way, but Thom Tillis and his dumb wife and this incredible. I mean, this is really staggering, Charles. This is just something that you and I have begun talking about, what, maybe yesterday or 2 days ago or something. And I mean, I don't know. This is like tapping a nail in the ground and oil began shooting out everywhere.
well, yeah. I mean, I think what happens in Washington D.C. and really this is your initiative. You've done 100% of the work on it. I'm just listening and commenting, and what you're doing with your new modus operandi is fantastic.
Thank you.
You're using the tools of improving on a daily basis to leverage your ability to get deep into detail on public records. And if I could just provide some personal context, in 96 and 97, 95, 96, 97, when I had the misfortune to be working pretty intimately with a member of the Bush family. At one unguarded moment, this idiot said to me, I didn't know anything about private equity. And, when dad was in the White House, uh, billionaires would come to me out of the blue and say, what do you want from me today? And I was thinking, that doesn't sound at all legitimate or something that your father would be very
You
happy
probably
about if he
shouldn't
knew
tell
what.
people that.
Yeah, exactly. He's telling me about this, right? And so I think what happens, it's first of all the scale of the American economy and the scale even now of government spending, unchecked government spending, is so vast, and there's so many crooks out there, whether it's in the for-profit world, the not-for-profit world, or both worlds, who look at a powerful senator as a cost of doing business. This guy is on a senior role, I think, on the judiciary, the banking, the finance committee, other committee, housing, whatever. And if you're a lender, if you're an insurance company, if you're somebody who's concerned about getting an antitrust lawsuit up against you, it's nothing to send, even millions, tens of millions, or in the case of Biden, hundreds of millions towards family members in disguised transactions, which are purposefully disguised. And if we were serious about regulating this, we would get people like Sam Antor and other people who are legitimate, unfortunately, with scars in the case of Sam Antor, legitimate experts on fraud, to go through and say, all right, what are the various ways that could be used to send illegal money to politicians in ways where the donors know that the politicians cannot expose themselves? What are ways to do that? What are the techniques? And then these disclosure forms they should be, wealthy individuals have to file taxes on a quarterly basis. Disclosure forms for these people in prime positions, first of all, they should be actually audited. Shouldn't be like, I can put in a range. I have private investments that are worth between $1 and 50 million. No. What's the real value on the date? Hire an outside expert to do it and pay for this shit out of your personal pocket, not on the taxpayer dime. You're the one who says you want to serve in Congress. You work for the people. You're not going to Jasmine Crockett your way in front of wheelchairs at the check-in line because we work for you. No, you serve us, and we need to have this information. And the fact that you were able to pull this together, and let's be expansive and say it took you 48 hours, which I think it took you less than that. One guy, and you have no academic training in finance or whatever. You did this yourself. You never went to, I don't think you ever took a law school class, let alone went to
No.
law school. And you were able to do this. That should humble the people in the FBI and the people who are, in theory, supposed to regulate Thom Tillis and others. It should humble the political side of the Trump White House. I mean, if you can do this, imagine what Stephen Miller could do. And I'm not belittling you in that comparison, I'm just saying he has more training, and he has a not-for-profit, he has staff, he has funding. Imagine what he could do if he seriously said, all right, the way we're going to operate is any sitting member of Congress, senator or representative, is going to be presumed to be a grifter from this moment forward. And we're now going to look at all the grifting tricks and go through all the public disclosures of all the people who are slowing this agenda, working against the 77 million people who elected Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance. So with that preamble, what you've done is magnificent. Why haven't other organs of government gotten to this place a lot faster? How many people on Senate and House staffs are crooked doing the same? They see their boss doing it. They say, well, he's doing it. Tish James style, the two people who it appears worked for her and then attested these fraudulent filings of hers over the course of many years. How many other staff members of Thom Tillis are crooked? How many staff? I mean, I think we could assume that 100% of the staff members of Schiff are crooked, and Raskin, and the people, and Tish. You know, the rot runs deep, and I don't give enough credit to the many people working in the art department, but that poster, is that an accurate picture of his wife?
Well, not the physique. That was taken from, who was in this movie? Angelina Jolie? I forget. No,
but that's her
horse-faced chick.
That's her. Oh yeah, Garner.
Hilary Swank is in the movie, but that's her face on there. The wife of Tillis.
She looks a lot younger than he is.
Well, you know what? Because I had a bunch of pictures of them. When I'm putting together these pictures, they're not necessarily meant to accurately. That might have been her from years ago, and then him more current. But I have a picture of them kind of at the same age that they are now at the top of this article here.
Okay. I bring that up.
No.
Okay, because supposedly, if Wikipedia is accurate, which it often is not, this guy went to work after graduating from high school. And if I did the math right, I was looking at it on my phone. I may have gotten the math wrong, but it appears that he graduated from college at age 36. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I admire people actually who decide that out of high school they want to go work, forget this woke bullshit. I want to get ahead in life. But he became an IT consultant. And again, there's nothing wrong with that without any college training or technical training. But then he ultimately became a partner at Price Waterhouse, which in turn was sold to IBM, the consulting side of Price Waterhouse. So, and along this path, he supposedly married and divorced his high school sweetheart twice.
It's a little weird.
That's very weird. And so this is the kind of person who a crooked version of Sam Antar would say, now, wait a minute, here's the senator, a guy who gets active in North Carolina politics. We want to tilt North Carolina blue. Here's a guy who I don't think started with money. How can we tempt him? How can we get him involved in a racket where we own him? And so, if the pattern that you uncover in this excellent article of yours, I think is it 2 properties, right?
Well, actually, Charles, I found 30, but
yeah,
I mean, so I've been going a little crazy the past couple of days. Not to get too personal here, but people are probably going to find out about this because I might look like a chipmunk after tomorrow. But I got some pretty major dental surgery coming up, and the cost of that is stressing me out. And I just been going crazy on doing this. And so I've been kind of going a million miles a minute, getting this room all set for the show. Now I understand why my hair was disappearing. There we go. That ought to be better. But I've been just going a million miles an hour, and there's a lot more to be said about Thom Tillis, but there's a strategy that I'm trying to put together that involves, there was supposed to be a tweet storm that was coming out right now for our show that we were going to look at, filled with my, signature graphics based on, holy cow, this thing has got 120,000 views and I don't think it's been on for 3 hours. So anyway, I have a lot more reporting coming on Thom Tillis, but it sort of just got hit by a million things at once. I got like 5 lawsuits happening. I still have to serve the Allegheny, medical examiner and all kinds of things. So I'm just going in a million different directions at once. Some people call it ADD. I like to call it nonlinear thinking, but it sometimes jams me up a little bit. That just happened a little bit, like 2 minutes before the show. So forgive me for being scatterbrained, but this article focuses on 2 properties, but I have researched enough of the properties that I was confident in putting this out, that this is not a mistake or, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. This is definitely a pattern. And basically, pretty much the most damning aspect of what I have found so far, and when I say found, I mean, proven by evidence that is essentially self-authenticating. And it's important that I remind people, as you said, I've never taken any law school classes. I'm certainly not a lawyer. Nothing I ever say is legal advice, and anything I ever say pertaining to the law could be wrong. But this is my opinion, and I state these opinions with confidence. If Thom Tillis wants to try to sue me or whatever, I don't think that's a good idea, but he's welcome to do it. This is a pattern, and when I say self-authenticating evidence, according to what I see, this is evidence that the federal rules of evidence would consider authentic. It doesn't need someone to come in and raise their right hand and swear this is authentic, because it's coming from Senate filings and court filings and official government documents and things that are sworn and signed under penalty and stuff like that. And I mean, we've got financial disclosure documents where he's not going to be able to say, oh, well, this was a mistake, because he's doing things like, transferring ownership of homes from an LLC that he controls to himself and then selling the home. The transfer happened for $0. That's why we're calling today's show $0 Baby, because there was a property transfer that occurred from an LLC to him personally for $0. I'm so sad that the Twitter storm got obliterated, because that really was almost like a storyboard that walked me through it. And I mean, this information is so densely packed that having it laid out like that was helpful. The one thing I'm reluctant to do is recount it from memory without it here in front of me organized. But he transfers the property from an LLC, and this property was a trailer park. And there's so many bizarre things about it, because it doesn't add up. When you look at the thing on Google Earth, the address it's 505 Enslow is the name of this thing. I want to be very careful about what we show here on YouTube, because there are addresses on it and stuff that could get us dinged. But he's transferring it for a quitclaim deed, which real estate experts will say, oh, there could be a legitimate purpose for a quitclaim deed, and I do not deny that. Sometimes when people get divorced, or, there's various reasons why you might want to transfer something to someone with a quitclaim deed. But, when you have a million smoking embers around a thing, there was obviously a fire there, and the $0 transfer is then sold, a $55,000 transaction that is not reported in the Senate disclosure forms. And that's a very big deal. That's a felony. And it can't be a mistake, because these things are happening again and again and again. That property is sold essentially twice. So again, I don't know what's going on exactly, but I know there are records that aren't there that should be there. There are transactions that have happened that haven't been disclosed on Senate filings. And setting all of this self-authenticating evidence that I've located from government-controlled public websites over the past 2 days, setting all of that aside, it's a little bit evident that this guy is super opposed to Ed Martin becoming the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, because I think it's clear that Ed Martin, and I don't know Ed Martin, I've never spoken to Ed Martin, but his reputation precedes him, and he is a guy who is known for prosecuting frauds and not tolerating government corruption. So it seems to me the people who are screaming the loudest, namely Thom Tillis, are the ones who quite obviously would have the most to lose.
Right. Then another thing here is one reason I know, because I've seen these ads, that people, I get fed because I look into financial structures. I get all these service providers talking about how you should structure ownership of this or that, the other thing. One reason to do this is what he may have done here with these two transactions is to hide the existence of assets from a spouse you're divorcing. So I'm not saying he did that, but it would be interesting to go back and figure out when it was that he married this latest wife, and did any of these transactions occur before then? And what was the interview? Because that could be another pattern that would disturb about certainly half the country, that is to say women.
Yeah.
If he
Well, I haven't seen that specifically. What I did do, however, was to start sort of cross-referencing the banks that, because now we're starting to develop kind of like a portfolio of fraud, right? We've got Weissman, first we were looking at the Lawfare Loan Network. Now, another thing that's notable about Thom Tillis is that I don't know that this is exactly the same. I mean, yes, it involves mortgages and deeds and properties and stuff like that, but he's not a lawyer. There are some differences. He's not a lawyer and he never was a lawyer. And, he's going way deeper with a lot of the stuff that he's doing as far as having property ID numbers that don't seem to exist. There are these things called GIS maps. And again, I'm not an expert in a lot of this stuff, but I am able to use artificial intelligence to look at the things that I've found and have it tell me what should be there. And then when I find suspicious things, there are various people who watch the show who are mortgage experts and deed experts and real estate experts and legal experts and financial experts. And people have seen some of them. Obviously you, Bob Bishop, Larry Klayman. People have seen some of these people, but there are other people who communicate with me all the time who don't necessarily want to be on the show. And they're the ones who are telling me the things about quitclaim deeds and stuff that I am certainly not an expert in, but I have, as you said, developed this technique of kind of cross-referencing all these documents and finding things, and I'm not relying on the artificial intelligence to make these definitive conclusions. It's just finding the red flags that I can then take to experts, which is why this is so powerful, because I think it would take months or years without artificial intelligence to even locate these leads.
Yeah. No, this is great stuff. And this is before we get into, which maybe we'll save for the sponsor exclusive portion, but it's before we get into the fact that this latest wife has a charity.
Yeah. And that's why it's so great to have all these experts like you who can, we weren't even looking at this guy until this all came up, and now we're looking at the wife. And that creates another pattern with the nonprofit. He's got the wife involved in the real estate transactions as well. And if people have been reading this article, you've already gotten a taste for some of the crazy, Charles, there's so much incredibly delicious stuff in here. They've got one of the properties, this trailer park they own, it's called like Shady Grove, which is like, are you serious? Yeah, I didn't even come up with that. That's their real name for it. So it's on this Rama Street. So that's the address that doesn't match. Like when I was looking that up on Google Earth, they've got it registered. The street is different. Like, why is that discrepancy there? I don't know, but that's very unusual, and it doesn't happen with most other properties. It's also, the trailer park is registered, it's supposed to be a home, and it's this rental property. So if he's renting out trailer park spaces to people and making money, That also doesn't seem to be disclosed, but the wife is involved in some of these LLCs. He's got Wise Property Management, TRT Holdings, all these different, shell companies. They seem to be moving properties around. And, we've heard from lots of experts, you and Bob and other people, about how this is just, hallmarks of fraud.
Potentially, yeah, absolutely. And the other issue could be this. Remember, for our audience, that one of the earliest presentations Jason and I did together was the business model for charity fraud. And now what you're developing here is a business model for corrupting powerful legislators or powerful government officials.
Yeah.
And so one of the techniques that Tish James apparently used, it's generally speaking, loans for investment property have tighter terms than loans for principal residence. We've been over this before. I mean, the argument being that if you're a homeowner living in a home, unless you're mental, you're probably going to try to take pretty good care of your home, particularly if you have a family living in it. Whereas investment property, you may take a different view. You may pay somebody who's not as careful as you are. And so just by experience, banks have come to realize it's better to have tough terms on investment property and perhaps lenient terms on residential. So if, in the case of the trailer park, they got a friendly loan officer to give terms on the investment property that are not as tight as they should have been, that's a problem. And shame on the staffs of the committees that allowed this guy to stay on the committee.
Well, that's the other thing. He's on the committees that regulate all this. That's the worst part about it, because just like Tish James, she's there prosecuting Trump. Meanwhile, she's doing all these crimes. So here, this guy's on all these Senate finance committees and everything. If somebody out there doing business did anything remotely approaching what this guy did, you go to jail for years. It's just maddening, Charles.
Right, and then we wonder why nobody's ever been prosecuted. No individuals, other than a few, people who were dead, like Madoff. No senior banking executives or risk officers have ever, I think, been prosecuted for the financial frauds that occurred or crystallized from 2007 to 9. Nor has there ever been a serious investigation of the frauds, I believe, that the Obama administration carried out when they pushed interest rates down to the floor and started letting people who had no qualifications take out very large mortgages to buy properties and flip them, and buy businesses and flip them. When Obama and Eric Holder turned the whole secured loan industry on its head and said, you thought you had a secured loan, fuck you. We're just going to take the security away from you because we're the government. We can do that kind of stuff under Obama.
Wow.
That happened in the automobile crisis. Secured lenders of Chrysler, I think it was, were just told, fuck you. You don't have security. We're taking that security.
Wow.
And so when crooks still working in the financial services industry find a guy like Thom Tillis and insert him into, the regulatory apparatus, they own him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, Charles, before we make our way over to the First Amendment Forum, where we will get into that nonprofit with the wife, which I haven't even looked into it at all yet, so this is going to be exciting. This is just like the cavalcade of crimes. But I just wanted to remind everybody that one of the most important aspects here is, because a lot of this stuff is happening in 2011 and 2016, and there's 5 and 6 year statutes of limitations. The issue is, when it comes to fraud, there are lots of crimes where if there's fraud and deliberate, fraudulent representations, this can extend the statute of limitations. And under 26 USC section 6501C1, if any part of a tax return is false and fraudulent with the intent to evade tax, there is no statute of limitations. So this could be an incredibly bad situation for Mr. Tillis there. And we'll get into all the details and everything in just a few minutes. Anything you want to say before we go over to the First Amendment Forum, Charles?
No, I think that's fine. I'm looking forward to getting into depth on this. And again, congrats on a great piece of investigative reporting.
Thank you very
You should
much.
have been you should have been on Face the Nation.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, my biggest hope is that it just moves the needle, and I think we need to get Ed Martin in there. Again, I don't know that much about Ed Martin, but really just the fact that this guy was so opposed to him sort of made me be like, all right, well, what the hell is this guy up to? It was obvious to me. But we've got over 120,000 people who've seen it already, and it's been just 5 hours since I posted it, so that's great. A lot of people are picking it up, and if you haven't seen it, please get on to X at JG_CSTT. Take a look at the article. People can sponsor the show. People can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by subscribing on X, and you can also watch the upcoming broadcast on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And thanks to everybody who has been sponsoring the show and who's been watching and has been with Crowdsource the Truth, because I would not be doing any of this without you.